Emigration to the United States of America has been the subject of countless analyses. However, historiography has paid little attention to the Masonic phenomenon and its relations with the immigrant communities. As far as I know, there are only 3 texts available on Freemasonry and Italian nationals residing in the whole American continent. 2 of them focus on Latin America, and the other one on the state of California. Andrew Canepa's pioneering research on the state of California in Freemasonry dates back to the 1990s, but has never been followed by further inquiries about the other states. This talk aims to provide a first analysis of the Italian-speaking Masonic lodges within the country. For this purpose, mainly Italian sources from the Grand Orient of Italy's archive will be used. So basically I used the Italian documents, the Italian side, and a few other Masonic documents from the American side. The Grand Orient of Italy was founded at the end of 1859. It was the most important Masonic organization in the young Kingdom of Italy, until the advent of fascism. Therefore, its official press organs, the Rivista della Massoneria Italiana and the Rivista Massonica, will be central to understanding the connection and the exchanges between the brethren. Here you can see the two magazines. On the left, you have the Rivista Massoneria Italiana, the oldest one, and on the right, the Rivista Massonica, the newer one. The first news regarding the USA lodges made up of Italians only dates back to 1876, several years after the foundation of the Rivista della Massoneria Italiana. In this magazine, readers could find a proper report on the Giuseppe Garibaldi Lodge number 542. The article introduced this lodge to the Italian public and note that it had been established by a small group of men 10 years earlier. This was the first lodge using the Italian language during the ceremonies. It was a significant decision for 2 reasons. First, because the Kingdom of Italy had just been established. The Kingdom of Italy was born in 1861. Secondly, because the Italian community was still fairly small in the United States. However, all of this couldn't stop the expansion of new lodges throughout the country. In 1865, the Dante Alighieri number 174 was started in New Orleans. Under the Grand Lodge of Louisiana, it consisted of merchants and shopkeepers from the Italian peninsula. 6 years later, even the West Coast had its own Italian-speaking lodge, the Speranza Italiana or Italian Hope, number 219 in San Francisco. This lodge, based in California, was created during the counter-demonstration organized against the gathering held in favor of the Pope's temporal power. It boasted about 50 brethren, a good number. Thanks to Canepa, we know that they mostly came from the world of commerce and catering, although there was a small group of industrialists and entrepreneurs. Among all, Giovanni Battista Cevasco, director of La Voce del Popolo magazine, stood out. As you can see, this lodge brought together a significant part of the Italian Californian elite. 1897 was an important year because the Giuseppe Mazzini Lodge, number 824, joined the Masonic ranks. As a matter of fact, in that spring, a group of brethren coming from Garibaldi and Italian lodges had decided to start a new lodge. Once approved, it was officially inaugurated on October 14th in the presence of the incumbent District Deputy Grand Master Remigio Lopez. In the same way as before, these men got in touch with the Homeland Masonic Organization, receiving a warm welcome from Grandmaster Ernesto Nathan. Given the increasing number of people arriving in the USA and living in poverty and delinquency, the Italian-speaking Masons committed themselves to help and improve their fate. Here you can see a typical image of Italian immigrants just arrived in the United States. Alberto Apache was a perfect example of this social commitment towards his own fellow countrymen. Arriving in New York during the 70s, he became a leading member of the Italian-speaking Protestant community, being a parish priest in San Salvatore Episcopal Church in Bleecker Street. As an honorary member, or as honorary president of several societies, he was also an important figure in the Masonic sphere, being part of the Giordano Bruno consistory. When he died, about 2,000 people, Freemasons and ordinary men, were at his funeral. The increasing role of Masonry abroad and the confusing information about this worried the Italian government, which was leading a country shaken by demonstration and authoritarian tendencies. In this tense atmosphere, in 1899, the Italian Foreign Office sent a request to all consulates located in the Americas to provide a report on Freemasonry there. Here you can see the letter that the minister sent to all the consulates. On the left, there are all the consulates. You can see, for example, Mexico, Guatemala, Chicago, basically all the American continent. The report from New Orleans is a very interesting one. According to the testimony, the Dante Alighieri members were very different from each other. For instance, alongside people of exemplary honesty, there were men whose political guidelines were extreme. Another distinctive element was the low level of education. This is very interesting. Having American citizenship and all the economic and social relations within the country explain why they show little interest, if not disregard, for the news coming from their homeland. The statement from the San Francisco consulate arrived a few days later. The details provided on the Speranza Italiana Lodge are very interesting because it was basically unknown to the Grand Orient of Italy, and so we have very few documents in Italy, and also because you can cross-reference them with Canepa's analysis. It had, at that time, it had around 100 members who belonged to the liberal professions and commerce. However, Consul Carlo Filippo Serra didn't have a positive view of these men. According to him, their main goal was to forge relationship with a view to the political elections. In 1903, more news came from California. The correspondent Fiorenzo Cavagnaro, a past worshipful master of Speranza Italiana, placed particular emphasis on the fast progress of local Freemasonry, focusing on the Italian role. At the same time, he underlined the difficulties of being integrated in such a different society. Replying to the criticism regarding the immigrants, he pointed out the high quality of doctors, engineers, lawyers, and artists coming from the Italian peninsula. The increasing instability of Europe and the radical groups' activity to fuel major tension on border regions also affected America. For example, in 1904, the Habsburg Empire, trying to find a way to stop pressure, launched a law faculty reserved for the Italian minority in the city of Innsbruck. However, when the courses started, there were severe clashes between students, which led to 100 of them being arrested by the Austrian police. This unpleasant affair led Garibaldi, Italia, and the Mazzini Lodge's members to arrange a meeting where they decided to get in touch with the local Dante Alighieri Society to condemn this act. Another interesting thing is that at that time, the Dante Alighieri Society was strictly linked to the Italian Freemasonry. Basically, all the headmasters of the Dante Alighieri Society were also high-rank Freemasons. The letter's aim was to defend, and the Dante Alighieri Society aim was to defend and spread the Italian culture worldwide. The summit between these members, these Freemasons and the Dante Alighieri members, attended by Mancini, Dr. Samarelli, engineer Nicola Conforti, and banker Maresca, took place in a tense atmosphere full of indignation and nationalist pressure. In February 1907, the poet Giuseppe Carducci, the first Italian to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, died. Here you can see brother Giuseppe Carducci with Masonic regalia. This is his deathbed. This is a photo of that time. This prestigious brother was commemorated on several occasions, and Italian Americans honored his memory by holding a joint session at the Masonic Hall in New York. The temple was dressed for mourning, and there was a torso made by sculptor Vittorio Manni and a laurel crown donated by the Italian American Press Association. The night was initially enlivened by music and songs, and followed by a number of members who made speeches, including Cesare Mondini, Garibaldi, past worshipful master, and Nicola Conforti, Italia past master. The friendly relations between the Kingdom of Italy and the USA had lasted for about 20 years when there was a terrible shock because some irregular lodges based in Pennsylvania contacted the Roman leaders. The Italian organization was uncertain about this. Although they were afraid to get involved with wheeler dealers and swindlers, they didn't want to just leave these fellow countrymen by themselves. So, in 1907, the Aurora Italica Lodge was created in Pittsburgh and attached directly to the Grand Orient of Italy. It was a very aggressive act and infringed international practice of not interfering in other Masonic jurisdictions. This fact presumably had consequences, but in the Italian archives there are no traces about this, possible discussions. This Masonic colonization succeeded, and the number of lodges multiplied in a couple of years. In 1911, there were 6. Here's the official magazine of the Grand Orient of Italy official magazine. You can see North America, United States, here the full list of these lodges with the worshipful master address. In addition to Aurora Italica, there were Trinacria in St. Louis, Missouri, Lunigiana in Boston, Massachusetts, Terza Italia in Newark, New Jersey, Luce Arcana in Collinsville, Illinois, and Roma in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, on the outbreak of the First World War, the situation concerning the Italian-speaking lodges was quite complex. Along brethren working under the jurisdiction of national grand lodges, there were, as you can see, coexisting groups that were tied directly to Rome. This wasn't a new element because similar situation existed in South America, but they were somehow justified by the local instability and the institutional weakness in South America. In the period between the 2 world wars, the men subject to the Grand Orient of Italy would have grown further, and Illinois would have been the state with the largest number of these lodges. I don't remember, but just before World War I, in Illinois, there were 4 or 5 lodges directly under the Grand Orient of Italy. That said, some guidelines emerged from this brief talk. First of all, the Italian Masons were well integrated within the social and economic framework, not only in the immigrant community, but also in the broader citizenry. However, this leading position didn't transmute into public visibility for Freemasonry, which usually kept a modest role during the official Italian meetings and social interactions. In most cases, the Italian-American Freemasons simply planned events behind closed doors with a selected public. For example, in 1911, the 1911 celebration for the 50 years of the Kingdom of Italy saw many commemorative events, always behind closed doors, culminating in a party organized by the Garibaldi Lodge on December the 3rd at the Murray Hill Lyceum. Nonetheless, they consider themselves to be the defenders and custodians of the memory of their native soil. For example, in 1902, Cavagnaro reflected on the link between education and patriotism. According to him, ignoring the glorious history of their home country of origin could lead many Italian Americans to disown their heritage, thus damaging the whole Italian community. Finally, purely looking towards the Masonic sphere, you could say that the Italian Americans were probably reaching their most prosperous moment, exemplified by the primary roles occupied within the American institution. The case of New York lodges is typical. If the Garibaldi Lodge could count on Fiorello LaGuardia, a parliamentarian since 1917 and future mayor of the metropolis, the Mazzini Lodge had Andrea Diana working as district deputy grandmaster. While the canons were about to make their voice heard on the battlefields of Europe, the Italian-American brethren looked to the future. Thank you.
We had a relationship with Libya before the first group got kicked out. And I had occasion to try to find out about the Italian lodges in Libya. And I was humbled. I found one, I think it was British, several years ago. What was the situation in Libya?
Okay, so essentially, one moment, I must ask.
Allora, volevo sapere qual è la situazione, ma delle logge italiane? Ok, sì, c'erano logge italiane anche in Libia, perché c'era la comunità italiana molto forte, poi però quando gli italiani sono andati via è finita la massoneria.
The Italian lodges in Libya were many, and because the Italian community was big, and but basically they disappeared after the World War II, because the Italian left, and so the lodges disappeared.
Well, they must have disappeared in terms of bibliography and archives, eh? Or
No, there are several archives in Rome.
Ah, se ci sono gli archivi, sì, ci sono i documenti.
You must go to the archives of the Foreign Office, Italian Foreign Office.
we need an article from you on this.
L'abbiamo fatto l'anno scorso a Parigi.
There's nothing in English.
Ah,
But you know,
No,
the
dillo
Italian
che facciamo.
community in the Mediterranean was very important. We have Italian
Whatever you
lodges
want.
in the Turkish
You
Empire.
can write it on palm leaves, we'll publish it.
ascolta, digli che pubblichiamo un libro.
Demetrio, any more questions? Cecile, yeah?
Just one remark. In fact, I found in the archives of the Droit Humain of 1910-11 references to this Grand Orient of Italy, and they were quite cross.
Ah.
But there are specific references, and it's Mutarelli reporting to France about this Grand Orient of Italy.
There's just so much to be done. Guillermo and I were in Mexico City a few years ago. There are two Grand Valleys. And to make it more confusing, the Grand Valleys are within a few blocks of each other, and they both have a bookshop. So I was thinking when you were commenting on the different jurisdictions. So we go in the lesser Grand Valley, and I'm looking at a picture on the wall of the Mexican Lodge in Brooklyn. trick them into doing it. It's the same with Libya. Of course, obviously, they would know everything about it, and I would know nothing, but I was trying to look up Libya, and I found one British lodge or something. I thought, well, there's nothing there. Now he's saying there's probably a beehive with activity at one time. So if you have any desire to spend the rest of your life somewhere, I've got lots of suggestions.
Demetrio, I noticed that when you mentioned that the lodge in New Orleans, right? That there were different kinds of backgrounds and social backgrounds. And it's something that at the beginning I've been thinking how social class in the United States and US Freemasons, American Freemasons, in that regard, I think they have done a really good job in terms of like equality. Is something that needs to be learned from. That in the case of European and Latin American Freemasonry that I'm familiar with is an elitist movement,
Well,
right?
we have lodges that are called silk stocking lodges.
Yes, but would you have all kinds?
We
So-
have all kinds.
And what I noticed is that when the Italians came to the United States in New Orleans, there is
Yeah.
an Italian American component that I noticed in your findings. Correct? Am I
Yeah.
right?
If the Speranza Italiana Lodge had several members with, being entrepreneurs or commercials, this particular specific lodge was made by men of lower classes. It's very interesting because in Italy there were some lodges specific to the working class. 2 or 3 lodges made basically by